Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Prospect Macarena, the Cardinals Q&A that we do. We try to do it every week. We haven't done it in a couple weeks about the Cardinals prospects. I am Kyle Reis. I am your host for Birds on the Black and Prospects After Dark, also for the Charlie Marlowe YouTube network. Again, so how this works if you're brand new here is we try to have a very open and honest conversation about the Cardinals prospects. So we ask you to bring your questions, and we'll go over it. We already have somebody requesting, and it's somebody from Go Nats Go. Please like my tweet. Again, this ought to be fun. We're just going to go ahead. We're not going to invite him to co-host. I'm going to add you as a speaker, and Go Nats Go. Please feel free to chime on in if you have anything at all you would like to say. Unless, of course, this is about the Nats, and then we're not going to be any help to you. Hello? All right, so we'll remove you from speaker because it doesn't seem like you have anything to say, and we will go to our good friend, Christian Rabbit at Spooky Cheez-Its. Christian, I'm adding you as a speaker. Thank you for coming on in here, and how are you, my friend? Oh, it says you're muted, Christian.
Is that better? My apologies.
Oh, no problem at all, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you, Kyle?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm a little dragon ass, if I can say so, but we'll get through it together, bud. What's going on in your life?
Not much. It's been a long week, and it's only Monday, so I sympathize with the dragging ass part.
Oh, I hear you, man.
So my question to you, sir, is about one Alec Burleson and what you have been most impressed with in terms of his development since the beginning of the season.
That's a great question. I think the most important thing, and what we talked about in his Dirty Flirty write-up, is, we needed to see Alec Burleson make some adjustments against left-handed pitchers. That was the one area that he was really weak against in 2021. He had that rocket ascent through the minor leagues, drafted in 2020, 70th overall pick. He starts the year off at high A Peoria, gets a quick promotion that was deserved to Springfield, gets another relatively quick promotion to Memphis to end the year. Got off to a bit of a struggle, and then really started to hit again, just like he had done at the other two lower levels. But like I said, the 1 week area for him, other than he needed to continue to improve defensively in a corner, both left and right field. He's better suited for right, but he also played first base a lot at East Carolina and also for the collegiate Team USA. But no, that's it. The mechanical adjustment he's made to kind of tap into a little bit more of his power, and also to hit lefties a little bit better. Is just a quick little, tiny little thing to stay back on the baseball a little bit more that allows the baseball to get a little bit deeper. And since he has a pretty smooth hitting mechanic with pretty quick hands, that has been a big adjustment for him, as small of a mechanical adjustment as it's been. So, yeah, the most impressive thing is he continues to get better out in the outfield. He isn't a top-tier defensive outfielder, but he's a really solid, average to potentially above average outfielder with an above average arm out in the outfield. Remember, he was a two-way player at East Carolina too. He was a relief pitcher or pitcher, and he had a really strong arm. So that he flashes that arm out in the outfield, it might be one of the more underrated arms in the Cardinals organization from an outfield perspective. So yeah, just continues to get a little bit better on the outfield while continuing to hit lefties. And if he can hit lefties, that's probably going to be the difference between him being some type of, platoon type player in the major leagues when he makes the major leagues, or being an everyday starter. That honestly, the way his hitting has developed, he's become kind of like Brendan Donovan with a little bit more power. He kind of slaps the ball around where he needs to slap it around. He's just an impressive young man. So, Christian, that's my thoughts on that matter. Do you have any other questions or any other thoughts? Anything you want to tap in there?
No, I mean, the one thing that I did see, and I've only been able to watch a couple of games, was compared to last year, is you mentioned the letting the ball get deeper and, the smooth hitting mechanic. It's still quite an explosive swing, even for how smooth it is. And that's one of the things that really impresses me about Burleson. And, it's a very fun swing to watch. And I can't wait to see what he will do at the major league level. So that's just about it from me. And thank you for having me, sir.
Oh, no, Christian, I really appreciate you coming in. You're the best. Thanks for saving the beginning of this, because you guys know I will ramble and ramble and ramble. And I asked if anybody in that little group chat had any questions. That would really help. So you're a big help, Christian. I appreciate it. I'm going to remove you from speaker, tell you thank you one more time. And then as we wait for another person to bring a question, I am going to ramble on maybe just a little bit more about Burleson. I know that the next thing that we're going to see, we've had a lot of people, they start talking about comparing Juan Yepez's swing. We've heard comparisons to Miguel Cabrera. And then we start talking about more and more comparisons and more comparisons. And this person's swing looks like this, and this person could be that. One of the things that we're going to hear a lot, I would bet, when Alec Burleson makes his major league debut is I would imagine there's going to be a lot of Larry Walker comps for his stance, for his swing. Again, he probably isn't going to be a Hall of Famer, but we're going to see those comps, I would imagine. We'll see him on Twitter, and we'll also hear him on the television broadcasts, regardless of if it's regional or national. The GM Gersh, Michael Gersh, we're adding him as a speaker now. This is not the actual Michael Gersh. This is just a really delightful man who I am anxious to have on our little podcast here, the Prospect Macarena. GM Gersh, down at the bottom, you'll see mic is off. You'll have to unmute your mic, and then the floor is yours, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kyle. How are you?
Oh, I'd love to do it. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm glad you're here. What's on your mind?
Well, I know I know a player that everyone loves to talk about, so I'll just bring him up. So let's talk about Jordan Walker for a minute. He's been pretty unbelievable since he's been in our system, and he's all the way up to Double-A now. And I don't know if you knew this, but he recently cracked the top 10 on Baseball America. So he's rising through the ranks fastly. And I know you're not crazy about people rising up on different different websites and stuff like that, because you think it kind of overhypes things and stuff like that. But is this a guy for sure that could be in the future a number one prospect in all of baseball? And long term defensively, do you think is it a corner spot, or is it maybe at first base, or at a designated hitter type?
No, that's a great question. I do not have a problem with finding a player within the Cardinals organization in the top, the top 10 or whatever they are nationally. I just think sometimes it creates unrealistic expectations. And you kind of hit on this. I'm just going to elaborate for somebody who might be new to this. I think that it just might create some unreal expectations for fans. And I'm always a little leery about that. A minute ago, I was very curious about this. So before we started the Prospect Macarena, I went and I looked up what Dylan Carlson in his age 20 season, I'm going to pull it up now. And of course, now I don't remember. But the gist was that at about the same time, they were both Dylan Carlson in his age 20 season. He was 20 for the entire year, which is a little bit different, where Jordan Walker just turned 20 at the end of May. But it's technically both their age 20 seasons. It all boils down to, while Walker hits more doubles and Carlson maybe hit for more, he had some triples in there, but maybe a little bit more power. They both had a WRC plus of about 145, which is incredible for their age and at that level. But I wanted to do that to also show people that, Dylan Carlson struggled, and he's still been really good. I think even with his struggles, 9 to 12 or 9 to 16% better than league average at the major league level for a kid who just turned, is 23 in his age 23 season. That's really impressive. Now, I would suspect Jordan Walker doesn't quite, he's going to be better than that, I think, when it comes to it. But, what happened with Dylan Carlson is, if, not to be a jerk, but if you weren't following me, then you didn't know that he was going to struggle. Like, we talked about it on Pad. We talked about it in his write-ups. It was going to take 2 or 3 years for him to get going. Before he got hurt, we were starting to see that. I believe we were starting to see the actual true Dylan Carlson manifested at the major league level. So I just get a little worried. And, we already have people talking about him being a bust, which is nuts. And I hate that. And it's not fair to the kid because, it's not like it was in 1984 when a player would come up and he might struggle a little bit and actually get a chance to prove himself. A lot of opinions are made, and a lot of opinions are expressed because they've already been made on social media. And nowadays, it's almost impossible for any human being on earth to not get some of that backlash. So that's the genesis of my concern sometimes, or my how I react to people finding their way into top prospects list. That is not to take away from Jordan Walker. He is a special player. Just like Dylan Carlson, they do it a little differently, but they're special players. It might take a little while to get going. And, the thing that I would think, to your question about if he could be a number one prospect in the Cardinals organization, or, in all of baseball, rather, I think that if it's funny because I think if he were a left fielder or a right fielder right now, he'd probably be higher up on the list. His defense at third is really solid. He has a throwing issue over there that I'm sure he'll get better and better at. But, I think right now, if you're talking about Jordan Walker, a right fielder, he's probably a top 5 prospect, or at least in consideration for a top 5. A lot of national rankings will hold him down defensively because he isn't Nolan Arenado projected at third base. Because honestly, he isn't even Nolan Gorman projected at third base. At least as of right now, he'll get better. He'll get stronger. I think if he was given 2 more years to play third, at the minors and to really cultivate his defensive skills, I think he'd be able to handle it and be a really impressive player. But it's funny. It's like, if this guy was already an outfielder, he'd probably be ranked higher. So the fact that he's still learning another position that's more difficult than outfield, it almost gets held against him. I think he'll be in that discussion by the end of the year. I also think that it's easy for us to say his best position might be in left field, or it might be a right field or first base. But I think that undersells his athleticism a little bit. He's fast, he's strong, he's fast, and he's instinctual, not just on the base pass, but in the field. And what I'd like to see, honestly, and I don't know if they do it because of how tough it would be of a transition. You're asking a lot of a player that you need his bat just as much as you need his defense. The position I'd like to see him get reps at when it's time for him to get reps somewhere other than third, which is either at the end of this year or next year, is I want to see him get reps in center field. I want to be on record as being the person who pushes that, because he's not Harrison Bader. Yeah, no one's Harrison Bader. But he's quick and he's strong and he's instinctual. He has a really great arm. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of a monster out there in center field if given the chance. More than likely he's going to default to a corner position. The Cardinals organization might even dictate, what happens with Tyler O'Neill, what happens with Dylan Carlson, what happens with Harrison Bader, what happens with Alec Burleson, Lars Nootbaar. It might be a situational thing. But that is also part of the reason why I'd love to see him get reps in center. I think that makes him more versatile when it's time to call upon him. But that's somewhere down the road, and that's just my thoughts. And I know I'll be in the minority with that. And there's always that next question, GM Gersh, where could he play shortstop? Right now when I watch him, again, because I think his throws are a little off, because I think he's a little slow delivering the ball sometimes. I would not think that he could play short. That's not a position you'd want to project him at. But I think anywhere you put him, he's going to be good. He's going to be good defensively. I told C70 when we were doing the Meet Me at Usual podcast that I think that there's Gold Glove defensive caliber corner outfielder at the very least. He's a special young man.
Yeah, and he would probably on some of these, like this list from Baseball America. I liked your answer and what you said, and really, I mean, he would probably be higher. But some of these websites still have some people that have been up pretty much a lot this year and just haven't graduated yet. And I mean, really, there's probably only 3 people that haven't been up that is ahead of him. That's been a minor leaguer, so he's listed as 10, but really people that hasn't reached the majors, he would be 4 or 5. So I think that's pretty promising already. Like you said, towards the end of the year, you could see him as, being in that discussion.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a conversation I had with somebody on Twitter, and, it's something that we've tried to push specifically with my writings and also with Prospects After Dark over the years, is just what an elite prospect is. You get a top 10 prospect in baseball, that's an elite prospect. And sometimes it's easy to go back and, when they're maybe not hitting as well as you would suspect or want an elite prospect to hit at the major leagues, it's easy to say, well, he was top 10, but he wasn't elite. Or, to look at someone like Nolan Gorman, who was a top 30 prospect, and say, well, that's not elite. Well, a top 30 prospect in baseball is a pretty elite standing. Mm-hmm. Again, it's all about perspective, and maybe it's because I end up caring about these kids maybe a little bit more than the average fan before they make it to the majors. It just seems like unfair expectations in need of perspective adjusting. And, any way you cut it, Jordan Walker is special. He could look at it this way. He has a 145 WRC plus right now at AA. he could take like a 10% cut and still be like a 130 WRC plus. Offensively, he could still be producing runs at 130%. A 30% above league average,
which is insane. Which is insane to think about.
Yeah. So, and his first year with the Cardinals, he might have a 109 WRC plus. Whether that's next year, the year after, or later on this year, I mean, who knows? And then the year after that, it might be another 109 to 115. But there'll be a time when he's a 120 guy. Just like with Dylan Carlson, there'll be a time when he's a 120, 130 guy. And what's, separates Jordan Walker is he might be able to carry the 145 for a couple levels and for a couple of years at the highest level.
Yeah, for sure. And I only got one more question. I think it'll be really quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't made his minor league debut. I'm sure he's in camp right there, but there's not a lot of information out there about him. So I was kind of figured you might have the answer on what's going on with him. So I know there's a lot of excitement when the Cardinals signed this player from overseas and Wonbin Chu. So is he going to make his MILB debut later this year? You got any update on him when he can make his pro debut over here?
Yeah, my guess is, so technically he's an international signing.
Correct.
But he's been at the Florida Complex.
Right.
So he actually is part of the Florida Complex League roster. That season started today. He did not play today. But yeah, I would suspect if he doesn't play tomorrow, I would suspect that within the next week, he's definitely making his organizational debut, which is awesome. I will also remind people that that's kind of a loaded outfield there. There's Jeremy Ramos, there's Felix Tavares, there's Luis Pino, and also other guys that I'm not mentioning and I'm overthinking right now, or overlooking rather. So it's going to be kind of hit or miss with playing time. There's a lot of guys on that roster, but yeah, don't be surprised. And I think technically, even though it's WONBINCHO, I think it's actually Win Bin Cho. But I don't remember for sure. I'll have to go back and check. But yeah, I cannot wait for him to make his organizational debut, and hopefully it's within the week.
Okay, thank you, Kyle.
Hey, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. So I'm going to thank you for participating. You're a hero. I'm going to remove you from a speaker. So we have two people on deck. We have JD Alfonso, who I'm going to add as a speaker right now. And then after him, we have Joseph Catalini at Jose Gato 6. You will be up next. JD, you will notice that you have a little JD Alfonso. You will notice, it looks like you unmuted yourself. How are you, JD?
I'm doing well. How are you, Kyle?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for participating in our little festival here.
Thanks for having me. So I joined a little bit late. I'm not sure if anybody's asked about Delvin Perez yet. But I was wondering what you might expect for the future of Delvin, because I don't think his path to the majors seems very clear. And some of the national guys have him ranked pretty high in the Cardinals system, which kind of confuses me a little bit. But I just kind of wanted to see what your take on all that was.
It's honestly been rough for Delvin this year. It seemed like he entered this year trying to adjust his approach, trying to be more patient at the plate, and it did not work for him. It was not good for him. Now, he isn't hitting particularly better over the last couple of weeks, but I feel like he's taking better at bats. We saw him hit his first home run last week. I feel like he's hitting the ball a little bit harder. The thing to keep in mind with Delvin Perez is this is his last year in the organization. 7-year minor league free agent. This will be his last chance to make a 40-man roster. Now, of course, he could always sign back with the Cardinals after this year or sign in a different organization. But the gist is right now, Delvin Perez isn't a major leaguer. He doesn't seem He doesn't seem like he's ready for AAA either. You never know. Maybe you get a guy at AAA. This is his second year at AA. Maybe you get him at AAA and you think to yourself, and maybe he thinks to himself, all right, I finally got my opportunity. I'm going to try to run with it. And he runs with it. I don't necessarily think I see that. The other thing to keep in mind about Delvin is now that Masyn Winn is at AA, Delvin has become a utility player. He's played a little second, played a little third, center field and right field. So he's kind of, now he's being asked to adjust on the fly there while continuing to improve offensively. And it's a lot to ask a kid, but he's still young and there's still a chance. It just seems to me like his time in the organization is probably waning. I wouldn't count him out yet, though. I don't know. Watching him last year was fascinating because he got off to a little bit of a slow start, had a couple of really good moments early on, and then he fired on all cylinders. Defensively at short, he was playing great. He was hitting the ball all over the place. And then he dealt with some stuff in the early part of August, and it was like his entire season collapsed around him. And he hasn't been able to rediscover that pre-August 2021 prospect mojo, or his own baseball mojo. So, if the question is Delvin Perez ticketed for a major league debut? At this point, I'll say no. It seemed like at this point last year, I would have said, yeah, he's probably a year away. I don't know what it means. He might only be a utility player. He might only be up for a little bit while somebody's on the IL and then back down. It might be more than that. But right now, it's not positive for him. Although, again, not to maybe try to make things shinier than what they are, I will say I feel like his at-bats have been better, even if the results haven't necessarily been so much better over the last, 2 to 3 weeks or so. Does that answer your question? Do you have a follow-up or any additional thoughts?
Yeah, that does answer my question. I guess my quick follow-up is, you said that I remember you talking before about him putting on a lot of weight before the start of last season, and he kind of lost it over the course of the previous season too. So over this last offseason, was he able to put on more weight, or does it kind of look like he's held over from the end of last season?
He looks a little like he doesn't look that much different than what he looked like. And his weight, from what I understand, because it is something I've asked about, his weight is about the same as it was this time last year. Maybe just like a 3 or 4, maybe 5-pound difference, which, is kind of a big deal for somebody who is as skinny as he is, probably. But, he's allegedly stronger than he's ever been, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the weight that he put on between 2019 and the end of the 2019 season and the beginning of the 2021 season was substantial. It was like 30 pounds or 25 pounds or something like that. And it seemed to be the difference in between maybe him being a fringe prospect and working his way into the top 15 in the Cardinals organization. And for whatever reason, the success just hasn't carried over, even with additional weight as compared to the 2019 season.
Thanks so much, Kyle. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure, J.D. Alfonso. I'm going to mute you. I'm going to remove you from speaker. I'm going to tell you again, thank you so much for participating. We are going to get to Joseph Catalini at Jose Gato 6. I'm going to add you as a speaker. And I'm also going to tell Eric Mallory 3, that you are next on deck. Joseph, how are you, my friend? Well, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well, Kyle. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to have you here, and I'm anxious to hear your questions.
Yeah, I've been enjoying these little chats. So thank you. So I'm here watching my alma mater, Arizona Wildcats, get beat in the regionals. But it got me remembering Ryan Holgate and thinking about that bomb he hit off Kumar Rocker in the College World Series last year. But I know he's been really struggling down at Palm Beach. I know broadly he's been striking out a ton. I wonder if you had any insight into what's been his issue.
Real fast, shout out to Daniel Susak, right? Isn't that where Daniel Susak?
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Big monster catcher with a beautiful, maybe somewhat long swing. I've been digging a little bit into the draft, and I remember him from a couple years back, but he's really exciting. So now, whenever I hear Arizona, like he's the one I think of.
Yeah, he can really frame it too back there. He looks great back there.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He would be an interesting pick at 22 for the Cardinals, I think. But about Holgate, there's a reason why Holgate fell. That big home run against Kumar Rocker was a monumental moment, right? I loved watching video of it. But there are a couple things that really work against Ryan Holgate. I think one is limited athleticism. Again, he's super athletic. He has more athletic and like an arm than I have in my entire body. I'm not trying to say that, but he has like bulky motions, and I think that you can see that sometimes at the plate, and that that's carried over. That swing can be smooth, and he obviously possesses a lot of raw power, but he has also always kind of been a swing and miss prospect, a draft prospect, that is, and that's carried over. He struggles with breaking pitches. If he's not sitting on a fastball, you can get a fastball by him. And it's easy to say mechanical or approach, but I think that Ryan Holgate is a type of prospect, that probably suffers a great deal from no short season affiliated baseball. I think that the very nature of 2020, I think that hurts a prospect like that, even though, he's drafted in 2021. I just think if he would have had a chance to go to a short season club last year, the New York Penn League, or State College in the New York Penn League, or Johnson City in the Appalachian League, I think that would have been a great little taste, or a great little precursor to the 2022 minor league season. But I think guys like that with potential strikeout issues that don't get a chance to experience really anything other than, the complex or maybe a little Palm Beach, I think that they're the kind of guys who might suffer the most. Not everybody's going to be Alec Burleson. Not everybody has that contact tool with potential power on the horizon. Not everybody can even get into that. And I think that when you're talking about a base of a prospect that's, can do a lot of things, can be a lot of things, but isn't there yet, I think it's going to take them a little bit longer to potentially reach their ceiling. And honestly, like, I can only go on with him because he's only been at Palm Beach and then back at the complex. I can only go on some reports that I've heard and some people I've talked to, and that seems to be the theme. It's a combination of maybe not fully embracing an approach and not necessarily knowing how to approach at bats in the first place. So, just give him a little time. He's still so young. It's not like the Cardinals to swing and miss with a prospect like this. And I don't think they're going to. I just think, Russ Steinhorn and the boys down on the farm just need to work with him a little bit. He needs to continue to get reps and kind of grow into his skill set if he's capable of growing into his skill set. Again, I know that a lot of that is vague analysis, and I am sorry about that. It's funny. I go back, and it's part of the reason. I didn't aggressively rank Ryan Holgate in my Dirty Flirty. I did not aggressively rank Austin Love in my Dirty Flirty, and it's because I had some of these questions about him, and the questions have kind of carried over with both of those guys. Whereas maybe some other prospects that were drafted or other draftees from 2021 have done some leapfrogging. Joseph, does that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up? Is there anything you'd like me to maybe explain a little bit better? I'm sorry about that really vague answer.
Dinner finishing up on the stove here, but I appreciate it, and I like these chats.
Awesome. Hey, what you broke up there? What do you have finishing up on the stove?
Oh, just a little dinner, a little soup.
Ooh, that sounds good. Well, thanks for the dinner idea, and thanks for the question. I'm going to remove you from speaker. I'm going to tell you thank you one more time, and then we are going to go to Eric Mallory. I'm adding you as a speaker again, Eric. Before you unmute yourself and before you make your question, and I say hello, I just want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, now is a good time to jump on in. If there's anything you want to talk about, jump on in there too. Eric, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks, Kyle, for having me on. I just wanted to say I appreciate what you do because I'm more of a AA guy, and I don't know who's coming if you don't tell me. So appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very flattering. I'm sorry for all the misinformation I've given you over the years.
It's been pretty good. It's pretty good. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I get to watch I watch the Drillers, and the Drillers are the LA's farm system, and they're always loaded. So I try to go to every Springfield when Springfield's in town every time because I'm a Cardinal fan. I don't care about the Dodgers, but I just got to say that Masyn Winn, wow. I saw him live, and I've seen Tommy Edman play shortstop. That's why I said Tommy Edman can handle shortstop because I watched him do it, and I've watched lots of guys, Edmundo Sosa. I've watched them all come through, play shortstop, but I ain't never seen nobody like Masyn Winn, and he's fantastic. And I mean, his hand to glove and how fast he is, how quick he is, the way he mans shortstop. He's the most legitimate shortstop I've ever seen with since watching guys on TV, obviously that are in the pros, but just in the AA level, he was incredible. And And I just hope he can keep his hitting up so he can be in the big leagues in a couple of years, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah, he's boy, is he special. And it's rare that you get a kid that is that much fun to watch. He's he loves playing the game, and it comes through while he's on the diamond. And I'm glad that you're getting a chance to watch him. Hopefully, I feel like they've already been through Tulsa twice this year, or just once.
Just once, they're doing 6 games.
Okay.
They're doing 6-game sets now. So I expect Masyn to come back. I expect him to stay in Double-A. I don't know about you, Kyle, but I expect him to stay in Double-A the rest of the year. So I don't expect him to push him all the way to Triple-A unless they just need to. It'd be best for him probably if he spent the rest of the year in Double-A. So I hope to see him again. But I mean, just the speed and he can, if he's in a slump, he can bunt his way onto base, right? So.
Oh yeah, no, and he does. Like he's done that in the past. Yeah, and this is part of why, not to go after Baseball America or JJ Cooper or Kyle Glazer or Glasser rather, or our good friend Jeff Pontus, he used to be on Prospect Live, like to not have him as toolsed up as he is on a top 100 prospect list during the season where he is, coming into his own and his first chance to commit fully to being a position player and a shortstop and a hitter, instead of having his interest split between pitching and, being an everyday player, to watch him grow into himself the way that he's grown into himself is malfeasance. Like, even if they would have put him as a number 100 on the list, that would have been something. Like, but it's always easy to say this type of player or a player like Masyn Winn is special. He has special tools, and it's special all across the board. He has the chance to have a special hit tool. That hit tool will be supplemented with surprise power, but he has, 70 grade speed. He has 80, we joke around, a 90 grade arm, and what I think might even be 80 or 90 grade instincts. It's a different level, and the thing that I find most impressive about Masyn Winn is he has that howitzer of an arm, but he doesn't ever overextend it. He lets it loose. We know he lets it loose, but he doesn't ever get himself in trouble with it. And I think that that's super impressive for a 20-year-old kid. If I had half of that arm when I was 20 and playing baseball, I would have made so many bad throws. 1 out of every 15 throws would have been a bad throw. And it's because you're so excited to have it. And I think that speaks to his maturity. And to your point about, he could bunt on, if he gets into a slump, he can bunt on. His maturity will allow for that. He's not going to get stuck in his ways. If he's hitting 200, he's going to try to bunt on. Like, if he's going through a 1 for 15 slump, he's going to try to bunt on because he's a winner. He's a winner with tremendous baseball IQ that puts the team first. And, on every one of these or every podcast I've been on, I always try to tell people with Masyn Winn that it's not just fans, it's his teammates. His teammates at every level he's been at have nothing but glowing reviews about how great of a guy he is, but also how much they love being around him. The Cardinals just lost Kramer Robertson to the Atlanta Braves through waivers. The Cardinals, trying to supplement their pitching staff, had to put Kramer on waivers, and he's kind of the same way, but without all of those tools. He has those tools, but like a lesser version. And Kramer Robertson's a leader. He has great speed. He plays a really solid defense. Arm isn't even near the same caliber. But I only bring up Kramer because losing Kramer Robertson, as dumb as it sounds, is a tough blow for the organization because of how beloved he is, at Memphis, to even kids younger than, the kids at Double-A, Low-A, at the complex. They all thought extremely highly of Kramer Robertson. And, it's a blow when they're not around, but it is a boost when they are around. So that, those are the intangibles that, can't be measured, that we all love, whether it be stat nerds or 80s baseball fans, we all love that. So he's such a lovable and exciting baseball player. And I'm glad you get to watch him. And hopefully like you said, he'll be there all year at Double-A. I would suspect that unless he goes on some crazy tear and, we joke around about it, but eats chicken and rice and does 200 push-ups every day for the rest of the season, he'll be at Double-A probably for the remainder of the year. So those Tulsa trips are going to be worth making.
Yeah, he's. I met them. Talked to Mason and to Jordan Walker, and they were super nice kids, super nice, and then they were all business when the game started. They just were all business-like, and I was really impressed with them. And everybody, they look at Mason, I think he's too small, and I'm going, and that kid can play. He can run, and he might have hit a ton of home runs, but he's going to hit a bunch of triples.
Yeah.
So, and there's nothing more fun than watching triples. So, and you were right about the arm. It is. I don't know how fast he can throw it, but it seemed like it was upper 90s. So going across the diamond when he let it go. Yeah. So, and you're right. He doesn't throw it as hard as he has to every time. He throws it as hard as he needs to. That's it. I mean, the only times I saw him really cut loose is when he had to. So, and he didn't have time. So, and it was just impressive. And I just wanted to talk about him because I was the most impressed by him in a long time. It's been a long time since I've been impressed by somebody that much. So anyway, thanks.
Hey, no, it's my pleasure. Eric, I'll remove you from speaker. I'll say again, thank you so much for participating in this. I will remind everybody that if you have any questions, you should feel free to chime on in. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of here. I like this because it allows for interaction. So if you have any questions, please feel free to chime in and ask your questions. It's nothing but glowing reports about Masyn Winn. And as that gentleman, as Eric Mallory brings up, I have not, like, in past years, I've been able to make the trip to Springfield or make the trip to Memphis or, Tori, or make the trip here and there. And I just don't have the time for that anymore. My time is split between St. Louis and Charleston, Illinois, because that's where my girlfriend lives. So I make the trip to Peoria every once in a while, but I can't make the trip to Springfield or Memphis all that often anymore. We did go to a Springfield Lucky Horseshoes game over the weekend, an Indie League team, and that was a lot of fun. But, Tori, come back. So it was a lot of fun. And if you can make it out, you should, because, think about that excitement that Eric Mallory just talked about Masyn Winn with. He actually got to see it and feel it and experience it. And I miss that. I don't get to do that anymore. And if you can, then you definitely should. So we have a couple questions up. We're going to start with Tori May. Tori, I'm going to add you as a speaker, and I'm going to ask you to be quiet for a second as I tell Jake Fouts, look out, it's Fouts. You're up next. And then a returning guest, Fuzzle Light. Fuzzle Light, we'll get to you here in just a little bit. So, Tori, it's your turn. Please unmute your mic, and you'll see it at the bottom, and assault me with whatever question you have.
So basically, I would like to know if you think that David Freese will make it to the Cardinals Hall of Fame or the real Hall of Fame.
No, he's not going to make the real Hall of Fame.
He got to play at that thing, though, over the weekend, or like last weekend, the, the Cooperstown thingy.
Then he's already in the Hall of Fame.
No, he's not. But he got to play at it. But I would like to think that one day he'll make it there.
I think you should go and check it out. Maybe he's already there. Maybe that was his induction this weekend.
No, only a part of his jersey's there.
Well, that's like being in the Hall of Fame.
Not quite. Not quite what I'm looking for, but
I think that he's fantastic.
So do you think he'll at least make it into the Cardinals Hall of Fame?
Yeah, he'll be a first ballot. The minute he goes on that ballot, you might as well just go ahead and put a red jacket on him. He's beloved, and believe it or not, some fans are actually crazy about their affection for David Freese.
I don't believe that.
Not any fan I know.
I have no idea who you're talking about, Kyle.
I don't know. I've been accused of hating David Freese, so it's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to say, but I know he's awesome. I love him. It'll be an exciting moment too because he's a local kid. Everyone knows that, and it's just a really great story, Tori. And I
will be there for his induction.
Well, I'll be there too. I'll be either there or Peoria, one of the two.
All right, you got to buy me a drink though.
I'm not doing either of those things.
Bye, Kyle.
All right, bye. Thanks for the question. I'm removing Tori from speaker. Jake Fouts, you're up next. Jake, look out, Fouts, and then we'll get to Fuzzle Light, the returner. Jake, go ahead and unmute your mic.
It's down there at the bottom. Jake, have you asked a question before? Why do I feel like you've asked a question before?
Kyle, I was going to say, long-time listener, first-time question asker, so happy to be here. I've been spamming your DMs about the last 2 months, I think. So I apologize for that, for all my questions in there. But just a couple quick hitters for you. I would like to elect myself the president of the Markevian Tink Hence fan club.
Okay.
And I mean, he seems like he's been exciting as of late. I know they're easing him back in, and he's made a couple starts. But wanted to get your take on him and the progression that we've seen from him recently, and where you think he's heading in terms of a trajectory.
First off, do not getting back to the DM stuff. Don't be afraid to get in my DMs. I knew I had seen your handle and your name, and I couldn't remember where it was from. So I love that you're taking part in this. Thank you for transitioning from the DMs to the little Q&A thing we have. I'm appreciative of that. What I'll say about Markevian Hence is that really all that set him back last year was just a little arm fatigue. I would imagine that last year we would have seen him at Palm Beach, and we might even have seen him at Palm Beach to start this year, if not for that fatigue. But, they were just being a little extra careful with him, reasonably so. The growth that we've seen is, he's a little taller. He's still skinny. He's got a little Delvin Perez in him where he's just doesn't really put on weight. I don't think that that's going to be an issue. I understand why people would think it is, but along with that height growth has come growth in all of his stuff. His curveball he could always command. I guess maybe we'll start this a little bit differently when we talk about Markevian Hence. When the Cardinals drafted Hence, it was what made him so intriguing was he was building velocity. From the low 90s to the mid 90s, he would flash maybe a little higher. But he commanded, for a teenager, a prep player, he commanded a changeup and a curve maybe better than a lot of other prep arms can. So that's what made him such an intriguing pick at that point. He was always svelte. That kind of works against him. But not only that, he had an incredible pitch ability and repeatability in his mechanics. And all of that has maintained, but the sharpness of his breaking pitches has continued, is my understanding. His fastball can get up to 97. There was rumors that on the backfields at the complex, he was hitting 100. That curveball has gotten heavier spin than it had in the past. And he's commanding it as well as he did pre-draft. And the changeup is coming along. And maybe some rumors of a sinker in there too. And maybe messing around with the cutter a little bit here too. It's all just coming together for him. The question will be, can that arm hold up with being as skinny as he is? And Tristan Mckenzie comes to mind. People question Tristan Mckenzie a lot. And I think that I really do think that Tink Hence, Markevian, could be some version of Tristan Mckenzie. I say that as someone who hasn't even looked to see how McKenzie's doing or, how he's holding up. But I know that when the Cardinals went up against him last year or a couple of years ago, I was impressed with him. I remember watching him in the minors and being impressed with him. I think, and it's a lazy comparison, but maybe more of maybe less of a comparison and more of a trajectory than anything else, where, the concern being with Markevian Hence is that he's svelte, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that even without putting on big weight, that he can become a major league starting pitcher, because he's special. He and Alec Willis go about it a little differently, but I think both of those young men have a chance to be special. Tink is at Palm Beach. Alec Willis is on the Florida Complex League roster. But yeah, look, the Cardinals have the Cardinals have something potentially special in Markevian Hence. It's because of how he repeats his delivery, because he can throw with measurable velocity and spin, and he comes from an arm angle that complements the type of pitches that he throws. So look, he's special, and he's the next big name to probably keep an eye on beyond the guys who are at the major league level now and the guys who are at AA and AAA currently.
Awesome.
What do you think,
Thank
Jake?
you, Kyle. No, I mean, that's more than what I even thought even to expect. I mean, he has obviously a special talent, but especially what you're talking about in terms of the arm angle that he uses, his control of the off-speed pitches is incredibly exciting. And then one more quick follow-up. I don't want to take too much of the group's time. As a proud graduate of the Big East, I'm a huge Gordon Graceffo fan.
Yeah.
And he struggled a little bit recently, but I'm curious on your thoughts on how the organization is going to use him. Are they going to continue to let him progress, or are we going to see kind of the same usage of Andre Palante, and then how they're kind of jacking Andre Palante around one way or the other? So what do you see Graceffo, how do you see him being used moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to what he's showing when a need is available, or when there's something of need. I think if they go into the offseason next year and they haven't, in their minds fully filled out the bullpen, I think he has the potential to fill the Andre Palante role that, Palante filled this year. I definitely think that's coming. I would like more. And, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that Marmol has used Palante. Maybe I have a little bit more hope that long-term Palante does get a chance to start, whether it be later on this year or maybe in the near future or, next year, which would mean my hope would be that if that happens with Graceffo, really where he follows the Palante route, or he gets that first opportunity the way that Andre Palante got his first opportunity, that maybe 2 years down the road, he's getting a chance to start too. But I think that more than likely it's just going to depend on what the organization's need is at the time that he's pushing the envelope. I still would have liked Andre Palante to work on his arsenal at the lower levels before getting a chance to open the season with the big club, although he earned it, so I'm fine with it. He's done great, relatively speaking, since. I think that that's the most likely scenario for him. I'll maintain. I feel the same way about Graceffo that I felt about Ryan Helsley. I just, there's some things he needs to work on. And I'll be honest, when I was watching that start last week, his first bad start as a member of the Cardinals organization, I don't know. I didn't see it. I kept trying to pick it up, but I felt like I believe it was either Northwest Arkansas or Arkansas. Now I don't remember, but the opponents were picking something up. I think he was tipping his pitches because I've watched him get nothing but gnarly swings and misses, keep hitters off balance, and it just felt like they knew what was coming. And his velocity was up. It wasn't an issue there. I just think, it just didn't work out for him. He had his first bad start in the organization, and I'm anxious to see how he rebounds this week. That's honestly where my attentions will be more so than anything else this coming week, other than, is Moises Gomez going to find his way to AAA or not, which, I think it's time, and that it hasn't happened yet, I think tells you more about the organization's outfield and what to do, the organization's question of what to do with their outfielders. But, having so many potential 4A guys, and not potential, but like Capel and Hurst and Coulter and Turner now, who's down at AA. Again, I'm rambling now, but that's the thing I'm most anxious to see this coming week, other than the complex stuff, is how Gordon Graceffo rebounds after that last tough start, his first tough start in the organization. So I know, again, I have a tendency to ramble off topic, but does that answer your question about what will probably happen with Gordon Graceffo?
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes a ton of sense. We've seen it a lot in the past with the Cardinals in terms of how they use some of these versatile guys. So it makes a ton of sense. But thank you, Kyle. I appreciate all that you do, and looking forward to the rest of the chat.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Jake. I'll tell you once again, thank you. Don't ever hesitate to drop on in. I appreciate you taking part in this. I'm removing you from speaker, and I am adding Fuzzle Light. Fuzzle Light, I'm adding you as a speaker. Welcome back to the Prospect Macarena. Don't forget to unmute your mic and tell us what's on your mind, yo.
I had some thoughts on Paniagua. I might be butchering his name. I don't know. But
That's fine.
I feel like he would have been promoted to high A when McGreevy and Graceffo were promoted. But then I think they made Beller and Pereira, I don't know how to say his name, starters.
That's it.
So what are your thoughts on him?
Oh, I like Inohan Paniagua a great deal. I put him on my Dirty Flirty entering the offseason. I didn't get to watch. I got to watch one of Paniagua's starts last year against Bradenton, and his stuff was present, even though he's had trouble throwing strikes. It was just, he seemed, you only get a week to watch the Palm Beach Cardinals play on MILB TV, and it's in Bradenton. Now they'll get to watch him play in St. Lucie as well, which is exciting. And those games are like in August, so towards the end of the year. But the one start, it was obvious that he had great stuff. It was a matter of commanding it, and he's kind of a small guy too, relatively speaking. But he stood out. He is a really great starting pitching prospect. You kind of answered your own question. I think that Peoria bullpen was relatively loaded from a prospect standpoint. They had put a lot of potential starting pitching prospects in the bullpen. And when Graceffo and McGreevy got the promotion, John Beller had been pitching really well. John Beller deserved a chance at a starting spot. Wilfredo Pereira is not a relief pitcher. He is a starter. And casting him as anything else is just not going to work. Now, more than likely, if he ever gets close to the major leagues, he's going to have to adapt to a relief role, which, probably doesn't suit him particularly well, and is a little hypocritical or contrary to my own personal beliefs on it. But just right now, he just needs to get the starter innings. He works at a starter's pace. He doesn't, I don't know. He's more of a starter profile, and he might fizzle out before he even gets a chance to be that. But that just suits him better. So, yeah, I think Paniagua is still super young, and I think that there's probably an incentive to keep maybe some of the Caribbean kids a little closer to Palm Beach, a little closer to Florida, especially when they're as young as Jose Moreno or Edwin Nunez, who keeps going back and forth between the complex and Palm Beach, or Inohan Paniagua. Like, a lot of guys are getting promoted earlier than they normally do. And I think that someone like Paniagua, even though he was at Palm Beach basically all last year, it was all last year. Even though he was at Palm Beach all last year, it doesn't hurt for someone of that age, still working on stuff, maybe still some command issues, to continue to work there before getting the Peoria bump. It'll come soon. I would imagine it comes after the draft, once they start to sort some things out there. Not to say that some of the draft picks are going to go straight to Palm Beach and that's going to move them up, but there's still a lot of things in flux within the organization, pitching wise. Yeah, once the major league the major league team kind of sorts out their own 26-man, and then later on when they have to drop from 14 pitchers to 13 pitchers, I think you'll see these things kind of like sort themselves out. But yeah, look, he's one of my favorites, and I can't wait till I get a chance to watch him with either Peoria, or if he stays at Palm Beach when they play Bradenton or St. Lucie. What do you think, Fuzzle Light? Any thoughts?
No, yeah, that sounds like a good plan, I guess, because he's still 22. So yeah, keep him there. I'd say for the rest of the year. Thanks for answering my question.
Oh no, my pleasure. Hey, thank you for participating in this again. I'll tell you thank you again. I'll remove you from a speaker, and I'll say there was a time, and this is something that we talked about on Meet Me at Mutual. And again, if anybody has any questions, I'm probably going to wrap this up. But feel free to ask your questions if you have them. I'm still on board for questions if it's your thing. But we talked about this on Meet Me at Mutual. There used to be a time where prospects would spend an entire year regardless of how they were producing at a minor league level. Guys, a 21-year-old would be at AA all year. And then, like that's how it used to be. And we're still adjusting to life following COVID, an entirely lost minor league season following COVID. The 2020 season was completely lost. And I think that there's still balancing going on. I think that there's still, level familiarity that wasn't there in the years leading up to the lost 2020 season. And, Inohan Paniagua was 22. You would probably want your 22-year-old prospect who has shown flashes of potential brilliance at low A to already be at high A. But I'm kind of in this position now where the more we're seeing prospects go from making a major league debut and then needing more time at AAA, and then maybe getting another taste of the majors, and then still needing more time at the minors, like with guys that have big strikeout potential, hitter-wise, or pitchers that don't throw a ton of strikes, I'd prefer, unless they're going to be cast in a relief role almost immediately or something like that, I think it's smarter, and I'd prefer that maybe we pump the brakes on prospects just a little bit. It doesn't have to be full throttle. but just a little bit. I'm as excited for Jordan Walker's Major League debut as anyone. I was as excited for Juan Yepes or Brendan Donovan's debut or Nolan Gorman's or Matthew Liberatore's debut as anyone else. But I just think maybe we're stretching just a little bit, trying to get a lot of these guys to the majors. What separates Juan Yepes and Brendan Donovan from, even though Nolan Gorman has done some really amazing things, Matthew Liberatore has been good in moments, is, Brendan Donovan was a collegiate athlete. Juan Yepes was in the minor leagues for 7 years. He got 7 years worth of at-bats. With the younger kids, the prep kids, the international signings, I think that it takes a little bit more time to get into your element, to realize your prospect standing. You have more time to grow. You're entering an organization at a younger age. There's more development there. There's less trial and tribulation. And I think that it behooves an organization to pump the brakes a little bit with those kids, especially after last year. The Cardinals were very aggressive with their prospects last year as compared to maybe some other organizations. So it would make sense that now there's a balancing or a leveling out. And I think that's happening in the Cardinals organization currently. I say that now, but we could wake up tomorrow and Inohan Paniagua could be at Peoria. I just haven't heard anything yet. So anyways, that is it for the Prospect Macarena on June 6th, 2022. Again, thank you everybody for participating. I am enjoying doing this thoroughly. It's a lot of fun. You'll be able to check out the podcast on the Birds on the Black podcast network. And then if you want to check it out on YouTube, that Charlie Marlowe will be putting it on his YouTube page. So, CharlieMarlow. Check it out there. He puts a fun little graphic there, and I rant on, and you guys participate. But everybody who asked questions, thank you so much. We're going to try to do this once a week like we've been doing. But for everybody at Prospects After Dark, everybody at Birds on the Black, I am Kyle Reis. I appreciate you guys taking part in this. And hey, Macarena.